Hello, this is DIY Reptiles, and today I'm going to be talking about Charlie, my green iguana. So I have a bunch of footage I filmed on December 9th, 2020 that is just of me interacting with her, and I want to show you guys that, and then I'll just talk about her at the same time. So let's go ahead and play that. And I don't have anything specifically planned to kind of talk about over this, but this is just how I interact with her. She likes to get petted, and I think that's really cool. And I've done videos about it in the past, but she has not exactly been like the nicest green iguana ever. But I got her like 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, and she wasn't particularly friendly. And now, uh, 3 years later, 3 or 4 years later, she is decently calm around me, but I wouldn't exactly describe her as a tame green iguana, and I'm all right with that. It doesn't really bother me. She just kind of does her own thing in her enclosure, which is very large, and then I kind of just leave her to it. So that's just a little bit about Charlie's story. But as I said, I've done more comprehensive videos about it in the past. So in this enclosure, I kind of want to talk about what type of renovation type things I want to do. So this is as far as volume wise goes, this is like a 500-gallon custom enclosure, and those are kind of like what the dimensions inside equal. And it is very arboreal. It's about 6 feet tall on the inside, and then like 7 feet tall total. And then I believe it's 30 inches wide, and I want to say like 5 feet across. So it's quite large, especially for her. Charlie is a relatively small female green iguana, and she has laid eggs before once, and she's just kind of small for some reason. I'm not entirely sure. I've always kept her in an enclosure that fit her size, so I'm not entirely sure why she is the size that she is, and I've always fed her really well, so it doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense, but she's just a small female green iguana for whatever reason, and that's all right. If I ever do need to build a bigger enclosure for her, I obviously will, and I have built enclosures for her as she's grown up. So for like a year when I first got her, I bought her. Unfortunately, she was the first reptile I got, and I didn't really know what I was doing back then. So I ended up buying her, and now I only take in reptiles. But then I bought her from like a pet store, and that was rather an unfortunate decision. But here I still have her, and she's awesome. So it was still quite a regrettable decision, but it is what it is. So for about a year, I put her in a 55-gallon tank, which most people would say is not tall enough or would like totally stress her out or do her horrible or something. She was fine. She did absolutely fine. There was literally no concern, so I'd defend that to the grave. That was perfectly fine. Then at that year mark, we built her a new enclosure that was twice the size. It was also a custom enclosure that we built, me and my dad, that is. And it served her well for a year until she very much grew out of that in a year. And then we built this one, and I think this one will last a lot longer. Actually, it has already lasted a year as of doing filming, or not filming this, but recording this audio for this video. It's been over a year, and I'm confident that it'll last at least a year or two more. I don't see her growing a whole lot more for whatever reason, but if she does, again, I'd be happy to build a much bigger enclosure to accommodate for her growth. So as of planning this enclosure, there is some noticeable problems that I've had since having her in here. So first of all, the background is made of expanding foam and dry lock, and that's worked very well. I did an update video on that, and that was a couple months ago that was right at, like, it had been just a year, and it's held up much better than the expanding foam silicone background that I had in her last enclosure. That did not work out so well, and that was actually rather unfortunate. So this is the new system I did, and it's worked out very well. There's very few areas that she has actually taken off the dry lock. So what I will do is I'll eventually touch it up. We built an outside iguana cage for her for like summer times, and I will be moving her out there this summer. We didn't finish it last summer, but I just have a couple things. I have everything I need to finish it. It's just been cold. So once it warms up, then I will finish putting it together, and then she can be in there, and that will give me it'll give me adequate time to redo her enclosure over the summer. So here's the plan. I want to touch up those things, which is completely fine. That's not a big issue. It's not noticeable in the background. There is some stuff around the sides at the bottom that you don't really see until you open up the enclosure, and I want to get that like re-dry locked because she did kind of tear that up, but you don't really see it on the background a whole lot, and there is spaces that I notice because I'm in my room all the time, but they don't really bug me, so I will eventually touch them up, but it's not the biggest deal. And once that happens, I also want to fix the drainage layer and the water dish because those are the other big problems. So the drainage layer was not supported well enough. It's a good system, but it wasn't supported well enough. I used landscaping mesh and she could dig through that. So I'm sure at this point that the soil has gone through the drainage layer system, which is an egg crate light diffuser system. And I'd imagine that even if the soil hadn't just fallen through it from her digging, then it probably collapsed on itself anyway under the weight of the soil. So I want to rebuild that much like more structurally sound, and then with carbon fiber window screen mesh, so then she can't like dig through it, and that should work out a lot better or more in my favor there. And then I want to do something with the soil. The soil isn't bad or anything. I think what I do want to do though is add in like a lot more leaves, so then it's more like a forest type of thing. Unfortunately, the isopods seem to eat the leaves really quickly, so I need to like sanitize a lot of leaves and then like really pile it on top, so then it kind of gives that like forest floor type feel. And again, unfortunately, I cannot plant plants in this enclosure because Charlie will either eat them or trample them or both, and that is rather unfortunate. So while I have all that really nutrient rich soil from the isopods and everything that's going on down there, no plants can be planted in the enclosure, which again is rather disappointing. So other than that, I would like to figure out a better way to go about how the logs are in the enclosure. That's not my favorite thing in the world, so I'd like to get some bigger logs in there that kind of round out the enclosure and match with everything and give her more space to climb. And then finally, it's the water dish. The water dish is a big problem because it's not easy to empty. I can't drain it like I can drain the aquariums. I have to like scoop out the water, which creates a problem because I don't always have time to do that, so I can't replace the water as much as I would like to. So my solution to that is to try to put in a tub high enough that I can siphon it out, or I can drain it out somehow if I connected, like if I plumbed it and then like put in a drain area through the side of the enclosure through the wood, so then I could put down a bucket to drain the water, so then I could very easily empty out the water dish. And I think that might be something I look into, and that would require me to like add in more expanding foam and stuff, and kind of expanding foam around whatever container I add in to do that with. And I think that might be the direction I'll be going with this. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that's what I want to do. So that will be interesting, and that might come during the summer, assuming that everything goes well with moving her outside and everything with that. So that's something you can be looking forward to. But I think that will be it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed. I just wanted to talk about what type of renovation plans I have going on in her enclosure, and those will be things I'll be working on during the summer. So if you enjoyed, feel free to like this video down below. If you have any comments or concerns, leave comments below, and if you want more content, then subscribe.